My sister's grades were bizarre. If I got 500, she got 510. At 600, she hit 610. Always exactly 10 ahead. But the moment I skipped an exam, her grades cratered. This confirmed my theory. Her scores were tied to mine. That realization sparked a wild idea. If I scored over 740 on the college entrance exam, she would need 750. Would she literally implode? Then came the eve of the test. I worked like a beast of burden while my sister just partied, relying on me as her cheat code. She ran with a bad crowd and quit studying. Whenever she got caught, she would just sneer. "Are you guys done yet? Don't worry, the top scorer title is definitely mine." And I did not disappoint her. Every mock exam, I quietly pushed her to the very top. I wanted her completely drunk on this illusion of grandeur, completely blinded. Meanwhile, I was secretly aiming for 704. My final semester of high school felt like a dull knife scraping my nerves. Waking up before dawn, sleeping at midnight, doing nothing but studying and using the bathroom. I locked myself in my dark, sunless room like an unstoppable machine. Right next door, I constantly heard my sister gossiping on the phone or laughing hysterically at her TV shows. Sometimes she blasted the volume on purpose, flaunting her freedom. But I didn't care. I had learned to block out everything. My mind held only one number. 740. 1. It was like a nail driven into my chest. Whenever I wanted to give up, I pressed on it to let the pain wake me. By March, Lin Jiaoxia started slipping into my room. At first, I thought she was just looking for something, but then things felt off. She watched me with deep suspicion. Once, while I was solving a complex math problem, she stood behind me, staring at my scratch paper. "Brother, why are you working so hard lately?" I didn't look up or stop writing. "It's fine," I said. "The college entrance exam is close, so why wouldn't I study?" She leaned closer, trying to read my notes. "But you were never this obsessed before." My heart skipped a beat, but I kept a straight face and sighed, acting exhausted. "Do you think I want to? Mom and Dad threatened to cut my allowance if I don't get into a top school." Lin Xiaoxia relaxed, her lips curling into a smug sneer. "You school," she mocked. She turned to leave, throwing one last jab. "Don't exhaust yourself. The top scorer title is mine anyway." I watched her walk away and said nothing. Only when the door clicked shut did I pick up my pen, a slow smirk spreading on my face. "Perfect. Keep looking down on me. The more you underestimate me, the safer I am." But her suspicion wasn't completely gone. Over the next few weeks, she kept digging into my progress. She asked about hard subjects and mock scores, constantly trying to break my confidence with discouraging comments, but I deflected every single probe. On every mock exam, I carefully managed my scores to stay in the top 5. It was safe enough to avoid suspicion. My real weapons remained hidden. The toughest problems and advanced tricks were saved for the dead of night. I practiced alone, tore the scratch paper to shreds, and flushed it. No traces left. One night, while tackling an Olympiad question, I heard voices in the living room. It was my mother and sister. I cracked my door to listen. "Is he working too hard?" my mother asked. "He locks himself away and barely eats." Lin Xiaoxia laughed dismissively. "Mom, what are you worried about? No matter how hard he tries, how far can he really go? Whatever he scores, I'll always be 10 points higher. His effort only boosts my results." My mother agreed, laughing. "You're so smart, sweetie. Let him slave away for you. He's basically your free labor." Hearing that, I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. But I stayed calm, quietly shut the door, and kept working. One April evening, as I studied, I heard a tiny rustle from the hallway. I listened closely. Soft, cautious footsteps, clearly trying to stay hidden. Then, the doorknob turned agonizingly slow. I instantly realized Lin Jiaoxia was spying on me. I didn't turn around and kept pretending to study. But I had already swapped my advanced work for a basic, easy worksheet. My real prep materials were locked deep in my drawer. The door cracked open slightly, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of her face. She was checking my desk. I deliberately sighed and muttered to myself, "Why did I get this wrong again? This is too hard." The door clicked shut and her footsteps faded away. I sat up and sneered, "Lin Xiaoxia, the more you spy on me, the more it proves you're terrified. You know those scores aren't yours. You're just a parasite. Without me, you are absolutely nothing." During the late May mock exam, I scored 690, giving her 701st place. She threw a massive celebration. My parents showered her with praise, cooking her favorite dishes. I sat in the corner, eating in silence, invisible. My father put down his chopsticks, beaming with pride. "Xiaoxia, amazing. Keep this up and a top college is yours. She's a genius." "Of course, look at her genes." Xiaoxia shot me a smug look. "Brother, you need to step it up. Don't fall too far behind, or it'll look bad for our parents." I gave a quiet nod and kept eating. Inside, I was laughing. Enjoy it while you can, this is your final moment of glory. That night, I tossed and turned, running through every scenario of the test. June arrived, bringing the big exam. On the night of June 6th, Lin Xiaoxia went out drinking with friends to celebrate early. My mother actually gave her cash, saying she deserved a reward. Watching from my room, I felt absolutely nothing, only pure irony. I slept at 8 p.m. and set my alarm for 6 a.m. Lying in the dark, I felt incredibly calm, like a warrior waiting to draw his sword. My patience was about to pay off tomorrow. I woke up on time, grabbed breakfast, and left. My mother took Xiaoxia to the test site, tossing me a half-hearted good luck. I just nodded. This was the end. After this, we would go our separate ways. My exam room was on the third floor, next to a window flooded with bright sunlight. I sat down, organized my pens, and took a deep breath. I closed my eyes, telling myself I had waited 18 years for this day. I couldn't lose. As the starting bell rang and I opened the paper, every question felt like an old friend. I predicted every single reading comprehension trap, and the essay topic was something I had written dozens of times. After the test, Lin Xiaoxia intercepted me outside, heavily made up, but panic flickered in her eyes. "How did you do?" she demanded. "Fine," I replied. She frowned, pressing for details on multiple choice questions. I almost laughed. She desperately needed to calculate my score to secure her own. "I don't know, I didn't check the keys." She pouted, unsatisfied, but let it go and walked away. I watched her leave, thinking, why the rush? Tomorrow, your score will show up. You will get yours. But halfway through the afternoon math section, disaster struck. My stomach cramped violently. It could have been the food, or maybe the stress. Cold sweat instantly drenched my face. I collapsed onto the desk, gasping. The proctor hurried over, whispering if I was okay. I shook my head, gritting my teeth. "I'm fine," I said. I had waited 18 years for this exam. Even if I died, I was going to finish. I pinched my thigh hard, using the blinding pain to ignore my stomach. I kept writing, though formulas blurred before my eyes. Using muscle memory, I answered everything. I even verified the final question using 3 different methods before putting down my pen. Completely exhausted, I collapsed in a quiet corner afterward, trying to recover. Lin Xiaoxia texted to ask about my math score. I replied with just one word, normal. She sent a smug face, assuming she won. Pathetic. Ignorance really is bliss. The next day, I felt much better. Physics, chemistry, biology, and English, those were my absolute playground. I had solved every complex problem countless times, working completely without effort. With 20 minutes left, I double-checked every single answer to guarantee a perfect score. English was even easier. The graders had no choice but to give me top marks when the final bell rang. I stepped outside and looked up. The blinding sun did not make me blink, I let it wash over my face. 18 years of hell, and I was finally free. Naturally, she intercepted me. She wore bright, flashy clothes like a proud peacock, greed practically leaking from her eyes. "How did you do?" she asked. "Great," I said. "Better than ever before in my life." Her eyes instantly lit up as if staring at a pile of gold. She ran off to brag to our parents, "Mom, Dad, my brother did amazing, so mine will be even better." Watching her celebrate, I smiled. The trap had closed. Look at Zhao Xiaoxie was like a moth flying into a flame, thinking it was the sun. Right after the college entrance exams, she completely cut loose, bragging to our parents that she had ranked top in the province. She demanded a massive advance on her allowance, upgraded her tech to the absolute best, and then took our parents' hard-earned savings and blew it all partying with her friends, posting about it constantly. She had no clue what was coming. One night, I saw her post a photo at a luxury restaurant, captioned, "Future top scorer celebrity." Reading them, the comments were flooded with endless praise. It all just felt incredibly absurd to me. Meanwhile, I wanted to visit my grandfather in the countryside. But before I could even finish asking for travel money, my mother snapped at me without looking up. She said we had no cash because Jiaoxia needed it all. I stared at her self-righteous face, feeling disgusted. They wouldn't spare a single dime for me, yet showered my sister with cash. These were my parents. My dad didn't even look up from the TV, muttering that I should figure it out myself and not expect any help. I didn't argue. I just went to my room, and the next morning, got a grueling job at a construction site. The brutal sun made me dizzy, but I gritted my teeth. I needed that money for the trip and gifts for Grandpa. Those 2 weeks were the hardest of my life, but I saved over 1,000 yuan. The day the results came out happened to be my sister's 18th birthday. For her coming-of-age party, she wanted to be crowned at her absolute peak. She threw a lavish banquet, inviting all our relatives, plus my parents' colleagues and bosses. The banquet hall was packed with loud chatter and constant toasts. A distant relative raised a glass to my dad, beaming, and said our family must be truly blessed to have such successful twins. Another relative chimed in with a sarcastic sneer, saying the oldest son only knew how to study blindly and was completely useless, while Xiaoxia was smart, sweet, and 100 times better. The young cousins crowded around her like she was a celebrity, their eyes green with envy. One of them squealed, saying Xiaoxia was just too amazing with a top university acceptance letter and a handsome boyfriend. She was a total winner. They asked when the scores would drop to witness her big moment. Xiaoxia just smiled, saying top universities usually call the highest scorers in advance. Right on cue, a phone rang, but it wasn't hers. It was mine. Under everyone's utterly stunned stares, I answered one call after another from the admissions offices of the country's most prestigious, top-tier universities. I politely thanked them, saying I would consider my options. My sister's eyes nearly popped out as she stared at her completely silent phone. Trying to save face, she gritted her teeth and muttered that the best is always saved for last. When the scoring portal finally opened, everyone crowded around her, urging her to log in. Over in my quiet corner, I silently opened the results page on my own phone. Even though I was confident, my palms sweated as I waited. My mother turned to me first, casually asking what I got. I quietly showed my screen and stated my score, 704. Stunned silence. Inside, I was screaming with pure joy. I had actually done it. My mother froze, gave me a brief, stingy nod, and immediately turned away. She rushed to my sister, yelling with trembling excitement that Xiaoxia's score would be even higher. Trapped by the crowd, my sister hesitantly tapped the screen. The next second, her entire face froze like she had swallowed a fly. The screen displayed 3 bright red numbers, 750, 1. Xiaoxia started shaking in absolute silence, but a clueless relative began bragging loudly, cheering that 751 was 10 points higher than mine, calling her a genius. But then someone whispered, "Isn't the maximum score in this exam only 750? The entire room froze. Cold sweats began ruining her heavy makeup. She screamed that it must be a system glitch from heavy traffic, frantically refreshing the page until her finger nearly cracked the screen. But that dumb number remained. 751 was still nailed to the screen. Someone suggested trying another phone. Grasping at straws, she snatched a relative's phone, but the result was identical. That impossible extra point glared back at her, like a massive slap to her face. Right then, the heavy doors swung open, and several police officers and immigration officials marched in looking incredibly grim. The leader scanned the room, demanding to know who Lin Jiaxia was, announcing that the examination board had flagged her score as highly abnormal, suspecting a cyber attack or major fraud. She collapsed to the floor in sheer terror, pale as a ghost. My parents panicked, but instead of comforting her, their instinct was to find a scapegoat. In a frenzy, my mother suddenly shoved me forward, screaming that I did it, claiming I hacked the system out of jealousy, begging them to arrest me instead. Here we go again. My parents, always ready to throw me under the bus without a second's hesitation. Their logic made zero sense, but they gladly sacrificed me to save their golden child. My heart officially died right then. Strangely, I felt incredibly light. I shook off her hand, stared coldly at these clowns, and told the officer my actual name, confirming I was the real top scorer, then pointed to my sister. Furious, my dad lunged to slap me. I grabbed his wrist, glaring with an intensity that stopped him cold. I warned him that authorities were watching, and top schools were fighting over me. If he touched me, it would make news. From that moment, nobody in this family could ever control or bully me again. Party meant for bragging became a total farce. Xiaoxia was taken away for questioning, leaving behind utter chaos. There was no hiding this news of an impossible exam score went viral online, and that very night it topped the trending charts with everyone laughing at her. Some mocked her greed, asking if she got carried away buying grades. Others commented, "If you cheat, use your brain, the max is 750. People dug up her social media, realizing she spent the last 6 months partying, not studying. Public opinion completely turned against her. Everyone assumed she used shady connections but messed up. Reading those comments brought immense satisfaction. I had waited 18 years for this day, for the truth to be exposed. Soon, the official report revealed a bizarre scanning glitch on her answer sheet. It somehow scanned an extra point, inflating her total. Though they couldn't prove she tampered with the sheet, they ordered a supervised retake with a backup exam for fairness. When the news reached our house, Xiaoxia was lounging on the couch, playing with her phone. Hearing about the retake, she jumped up, her face turning pale. She screamed, asking why on earth she had to take the test again, insisting her score was real and just a computer error. My dad, looking grim, hissed at her to keep quiet so neighbors wouldn't hear. While my mother paced around trying to comfort her, telling her not to panic because she was smart enough to ace it again. But Xiaoxia, she completely lost her mind, throwing a tantrum, crying and screaming that she would only take the exam if I did too. She demanded I sit right next to her. Then she lunged at me, digging her nails into my arm with bloodshot eyes, demanding I go with her. I violently shook her off, telling her coldly that my exams were done and I had no reason to help. She stared at me in disbelief, shocked that I would refuse. My mother immediately rushed over to defend her, scolding my attitude. She yelled that I should support my sister during a crisis, claiming our family reputation was at stake, begging me to just take it with her. I looked at them, finding it both hilarious and pathetic. That was Xiao Shu's reputation, not mine. I refused on the spot and walked away, locking myself in my room and ignoring their screaming. Naturally, the education board rejected their ridiculous request to have me sit in. Ultimately, she had to take the test completely alone under strict supervision. They set up her desk in a secure meeting room with cameras running constantly, watching her every move to prevent any tricks. Unsurprisingly, she completely failed, and her total score was only 150. She was barely a 300-point student anyway, and had spent the last 6 months dating instead of opening a single book. I was working at the construction site when a classmate texted me her score of 150. I froze, then burst into hysterical laughter. My coworker thought I had heat stroke and handed me some water. I told him I was just incredibly happy. This retake exposed her. Dropping from 751 to 157 made the internet explode. The comments were pure gold. Someone wrote that 157 was her actual capability, proving the first score was fake. Unable to handle the intense online backlash, she tried posting her old report cards to defend herself, but it only backfired. The internet completely exposed her. Her bizarre academic jump in senior year from a failing 300 points convinced everyone she had been cheating all along, and in the process, they even dug up my own transcripts from elementary to high school. Every single exam score of mine was laid bare. I had consistently ranked in the top 3, a true, rock-solid star student. Some commented, "Are they really siblings? How is the gap this huge?" Others pointed out that, while one was the top scorer, the other could barely even pass. Looking at those comments, my heart was heavy. I used to think that getting good grades would finally earn my parents' approval, but I eventually realized that no matter how high I scored, I would never measure up to Lin Jiaoxia in their eyes because they did not want an outstanding son. They wanted a safety net, a tool to bail out their daughter. The same teachers and classmates who once fawned over Lin Xiaoxiao now avoided her like the plague. Even my parents were pointed at whenever they went out, with neighbors whispering behind their backs, saying their daughter was actually a total fraud who had fooled everyone for years. What an absolute embarrassment. During that time, Lin Xiaoxiao hid in her room, terrified of being seen like a cornered rat. She kept her curtains tightly shut, even forcing mom to leave her meals at the door, refusing to see anyone. Meanwhile, clutching my admission letter to the top medical school, I packed my bags and headed back to the countryside to stay with Grandpa. I thought once school started in late August, I would finally be free. But country summers are brutal, like a steamer, though it brought me peace of mind. Grandpa's old house sat at the foot of the mountain, 3 simple mud brick rooms with an old locust tree out front. The cicadas buzzed loudly, but it never annoyed me. This was my real home. Ever since I could remember, I had been dumped here under the guise that the country air was good for my health. In truth, they just found me annoying and wanted Lin Xiao to have all their love and resources. My existence was just unwanted competition. Grandpa never spoke ill of my parents, he just silently cared for me, teaching me to read and write, and telling me to always rely on myself. He used to say studying is the only way out for poor kids. I carved those words into my soul. I stayed at the old house for over 20 days, waking up early every morning to help him feed the chickens, reading in the yard before noon, accompanying him to the fields, and cooling off under the locust tree at night. He would tell me stories of the past, how mischievous my dad was as a kid, and how hard my mom worked when she first married him. Hearing these unfamiliar memories felt like listening to someone else's family story. In my memory, my parents were never like that. One evening, as we sat in the yard under a brilliant moon, Grandpa suddenly asked how I did on the college entrance exam. I thought about it for a moment and answered honestly, "I think I did pretty well." Grandpa nodded, a spark lighting up his cloudy eyes. He stared up at the moon, fell silent for a moment, and muttered, "That is good, that is very good." Then he sighed, his voice sounding a bit hoarse. "Your grandpa never made much of himself. I am counting on you now." I lowered my head, my eyes stinging. Growing up, he was the only one who ever said things like that to me, the only one who truly wished me well. "Grandpa, once I go to college and get a job, I will take you to live in the city with me." He waved his hand and laughed like a child. "I cannot get used to city life. Knowing you care is enough." That night, lying on the brick bed listening to the crickets, I thought about how once the scores came out, everything would finally be settled. I would show everyone that I, Lin Tian, am no pushover, nor am I anyone's stepping stone. On August 12th, with only about 2 weeks left before school started, I was in the yard helping Grandpa dry corn, pouring baskets of golden ears onto bamboo mats to spread them flat. Suddenly, the phone in my pocket rang. It was Mom's number. I froze. She almost never called me. The last time she did was before the exam, asking what score I could get in a tone dripping with scrutiny and calculation. I picked up, only to hear sobbing on the other end. Mom's voice was hoarse and frantic. Tian, you have to come back quick. Your dad fell critically ill. He is dying. My heart instantly sank. The dustpan in my hand almost slipped to the ground. I asked what happened and which hospital he was in, but Mom only wept, ignoring my questions and just repeating, "Come back quick, just come back." Then she hung up. I stood there, my mind in complete chaos. Grandpa came out of the house, saw my face, and asked what was wrong. When I told him, his expression shifted immediately. He urged me to pack up and go back, no matter what. He is your father, you have to go see him. I nodded, rushed inside, and hurriedly tossed a few pieces of clothing into my backpack. Before I could leave, Grandpa ran after me and shoved a heavy cloth bundle into my hands. "Take this," he said. "It is my emergency savings." I opened it to find a stack of crumpled bills. Adding it up, it was only about 2,000 yuan. It was his retirement money, saved coin by coin from selling eggs and vegetables. I tried to push it back, but he had already turned and gone inside, his hunched back looking so frail framed in the doorway. Clutching that bundle, my eyes grew hot. From the village to the county town was a 2-hour bus ride, then a 3-hour train to the city, followed by a high-speed rail transfer. The whole journey would take nearly 10 hours. I bought the earliest ticket. As the bumpy bus rattled along and the scenery flew past, my mind began to cool down and analyze. This was wrong. Too many things did not add up. Mom's sobbing was far too dramatic, almost like she was acting. Plus, she never mentioned what illness Dad had, which hospital he was at, or even his actual condition. She just kept screaming for me to go back. If he was truly dying, she should have said, "Your dad is at this hospital, get here now," instead of, "Come back home." If Dad was being resuscitated in an ICU, how could she be sitting at home calling me? Her tone had this bizarre, unexplainable urgency to it. It did not sound like she was worried about her husband, it sounded like she was terrified I would not return. The more I thought, the sketchier it got. I dialed Dad's cell phone, it was busy. I tried again, still busy. Changing my strategy, I called one of my dad's coworkers, an uncle I had met a few times. I politely asked if anything had happened to my dad. The man sounded completely baffled. "Your dad treated us all to dinner last week, he is doing great, why?" "Oh, nothing, I must have misheard." I made up a quick excuse and hung up. Sure, it was a lie. Leaning back, I watched the mountains roll by. The crushing weight on my chest finally vanished. I wasn't being cold-hearted, I just knew my family. If Dad were actually dying, Lin Jiaoxia would have already been crying all over social media, playing the victim for sympathy. She'd never keep quiet. Since this was clearly a trap, what did they actually want from me? I spent hours trying to figure it out, and the answer was blindingly obvious. My sister's scandal was just too massive. Her embarrassing exam score of 751 was still trending everywhere. Without me, she was nothing. She could never survive repeating senior year to get into a decent college. Meanwhile, I was about to leave for the country's top university, escaping this toxic swamp for good. They would never let that happen. To them, my only purpose in life was serving as her stepping stone, her backup plan, and her personal blood bank. Once I realized that, my panic faded away. Instead, I felt the chilling calm of a hunter waiting for prey. Except this time, the roles were reversed. Since they wanted to put on a show, I was more than happy to play along. Right to the end, but I'd be the one writing the final script. On the train, I used Grandpa's money to buy a cheap spare phone and a power bank. After charging them, I downloaded a camera app that backed up directly to the cloud, testing it 3 times to ensure it was completely foolproof. Next, I reached out to my future college roommates in our freshman group chat, briefly explaining my situation. I asked them to call the police if I went silent for over 48 hours. I even shared my real-time location. One of them texted back, saying, "Man, your family is insane. Don't worry, we've got your back. Go do what you need to do, and we'll call the cops the second anything goes wrong. Stay safe and keep us posted." Reading those texts, a wave of warmth washed over me. Perfect strangers were willing to help me, while my own flesh and blood were trying to push me straight into a fiery pit. What a sick joke. By the time I arrived home, it was already the evening of the second day. The setting sun bathed our run-down building in a dull orange glow. Dragging my suitcase, I stood downstairs, looking up at the place I'd lived for 12 years, yet I'd never once felt like I belonged. I took a deep breath, walked upstairs, and knocked. The door opened, revealing Mom. Her eyes were red, as if she'd just been crying. When she saw me, she froze for a split second, then quickly forced a fawning smile. "Oh, Tian, you're finally back, come in." Her bizarre, over-the-top warmth gave me goosebumps. Growing up, she'd never been this eager to see me. Keeping my composure, I quietly stepped inside. My eyes swept the living room. Dad was sitting on the couch watching TV, remote in hand, looking perfectly healthy. There wasn't a single trace of sickness on him. Standing in the entryway, my hands still gripping the suitcase handle, I asked. I thought Dad was really sick. Why is he home watching television? The air in the room instantly froze. Dad glanced up, looking visibly uncomfortable, and Mom's smile stiffened before she quickly tried to cover up. Oh, it was just a false alarm. Your dad felt bad yesterday, but the hospital checkup showed nothing serious. Since you're leaving for university soon, we just wanted the family together. Hearing the word family slip from her lips felt incredibly ironic. I didn't expose her, I just nodded and gave a dry response. As I walked in, my peripheral vision caught Lin Jiaoshao sitting on the other end of the couch. Curled in a corner, hair messy, face sallow with dark circles, she looked nothing like the proud, arrogant darling of the town from a few months ago. When she saw me, she looked up with a complex mix of resentment, fear, and something else I couldn't quite read. Pretending not to notice, I went straight to my room. My room was at the very back, a tiny 10 square meter space that never saw sunlight. It was a storage room until I returned from Grandpa's, and they reluctantly cleared it out. Meanwhile, Lin Jiaoshao got the spacious, bright, south-facing master bedroom. The division of resources in this house had always been crystal clear. I closed my door and thoroughly inspected my room desk, books, shelf, wardrobe, and under the bed. Once I confirmed nothing had been tampered with, I pulled the spare phone from my backpack. Finding a hidden angle, I propped it up among the clutter on the bookshelf, with the camera aimed squarely at the door. I set it to silent and hit record, making sure no notifications would go off. With everything set, I lay on the bed pretending to sleep, while my ears strained to catch every single sound from the living room. Dinner was a massive feast Mom made. She actually called me out, piling food onto my plate, cooing, "You've gotten so thin, Xiao Shan, eat up before you leave." But I couldn't taste a thing. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what they were really planning. When would they show their fangs? After dinner, my father cleared his throat, gearing up for a speech. "Xiao Shan, the reason we had you come back is because we need to discuss something." I looked up with a perfectly feigned expression of confusion. "It's like this," he said. "Your sister isn't doing well. The college entrance exam really broke her. She's severely depressed and won't even leave her room, so your mother and I think you're her brother and her closest friend. Can you stay and help her through this?" That was it. I waited for the trap. Right on cue, Mom jumped in, her voice testing my reaction. "Yes, Xiao Shan, you two are twins. Blood is thicker than water. Why can't you help your sister out?" I stayed silent, just staring at them. The tension stretched until Lin Jiaoshao suddenly looked up, her eyes rimmed with red. She looked at me, crying, "Brother, I know I was wrong, okay? I realize everything now. I was terrible to you, and I'm so sorry. Can you just give me one more chance?" I almost laughed out loud. Her acting had definitely improved, but I wasn't buying it. I told them to stop playing games and say what they wanted. I had zero patience for this. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, and Dad finally opened the negotiation. "We found a way to get Xiao Xiao into college," he said. I raised an eyebrow, gesturing for him to go on. "Xiao Xiao told us about her exam results, and about that 10-point rule. You must know it better than we do. There's a special connection if you are near her, she gets high scores." My heart skipped a beat. She actually told them my secret. My father stood up and walked over, his voice heavy with authority. "So, your mother and I decided, can you delay going to university for a year? Repeat high school and take the exam with her next year. That way, she gets into a top university too. Imagine the honor of having two top-tier students in our family." I was stunned not by the sheer absurdity of it, but by the way they demanded it. They acted as if sacrificing my entire future for Lin Jiaoshao was simply my duty. Sensing my hesitation, my mother leaned in and grabbed my hand, her eyes gleaming with calculation. "Xiao Shan, this is good for you too. You're so smart, you'll easily ace it again next year with a top score. Another year under your belt, and elite universities will be begging you to join them. Xiao Zhao gets a great future. Isn't that a win-win?" "I already have my college admission letter," I replied coldly. "Why should I repeat a year?" My father waved his hand dismissively. "An admission letter is nothing if you don't register, it just expires. Xiao Shan, you're the older brother, why can't you just yield to your sister? When she makes it big, she'll take care of you. You'll get a share of her earnings." It was the funniest joke I'd ever heard. "I refuse," I said. My father's face darkened instantly, and my mother froze. Lin Jiaoshao snapped her head up, the pleading in her eyes instantly twisting into pure malice. My father stood up, looming over me menacingly. Xiao Shan, what is this attitude? We're trying to reason with you, and you just refuse. You want me to give up my dream university to repeat a year with someone who only scored 157, just to steal my spot? On what grounds? Because she's your sister? A brother helping his sister is the natural order of things. I've helped her for 18 years, while you gave her everything. And dump me in the countryside? Now that she ruined her own life, you suddenly remember me? You want me to destroy my future just to clean up her mess? My father slammed the table. Mind your attitude, this is my attitude. I am not doing it. I turned toward my bedroom. Behind me, Lin Jiaoxia screamed hysterically, Lin Tian, those test scores belong to me. Without me, you are nothing. Listen up, Jiaoxia. I earned every single point with my own hands. It has nothing to do with you. Stealing my luck was a fluke, not your talent. It is certainly not a weapon you can use against me. Lin Jiaoxia stood frozen, completely speechless. Tears spilled down her cheeks, born of pure rage. My mother rushed over to shield her, pointing a shaking finger at me. Lin Tian, mocking your sister like this, do you have any conscience left? I did not bother arguing. I went into my room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. Outside, things began to shatter. My father roared, my mother sobbed, and my sister's shrieks joined the chaotic symphony. It sounded like a boiling cauldron. Leaning against the door, I shut my eyes to the noise, feeling surprisingly calm. Tonight was just the first round. The real war lay ahead, and I knew they would not give up easily. Let them try. I had plenty of patience. I stayed awake all night, staring at the ceiling and listening. Around 2 a.m., a soft rustling sound drifted from the hallway, like people whispering. I held my breath. It was my parents. My mother kept her voice barely above a whisper, but I caught every word. Old Lin, why don't we take his things while he's asleep? Without his ID and admission letter, he can't leave. His lights are out. He is definitely asleep. Let's do it tonight before he changes his mind. Footsteps approached. My heart hammered, but I stayed still, pretending to sleep. The doorknob turned slowly. Thank God, I had locked it. Outside, my mother hissed a curse. He locked the door. Forget it, we will deal with it tomorrow. He cannot escape anyway. Her footsteps faded into the distance. I opened my eyes, staring into the dark, and smiled coldly. They never planned on letting me leave. The moment I crossed this threshold, I had walked right into their trap. But what they did not realize was that I was prepared for this. The game was far from over. The next morning, I tried the door locked from the outside. My heart sank. I checked the window, but the iron security grates were welded shut. I was completely trapped. My cell signal worked, but the Wi-Fi was cut. I used my mobile data to text my roommate, letting him know I was safe but in trouble and telling them to stand by. At 10 a.m., the door unlocked. My mother walked in with a bowl of porridge, a fake smile plastered on her face. Son, have you changed your mind yet? I ignored her. She set the bowl down and sighed heavily, her voice turning cold and threatening. Xiao Tian, be smart. Even if you got into a top school, who is going to pay your tuition and bills? Do you really think we will give you a single penny? You won't even be able to afford to register. You will come crawling back anyway. And who knows if your admission letter will even survive. If you cooperate and repeat the year, we will fully support you next year. But if you don't, she left the threat hanging, but the meaning was clear. I stayed silent. Once she left, the lock clicked shut. I was officially under house arrest. On day 1, I managed to keep my cool. By day 2, anxiety crept in not from fear, but because time was running out. College registration was getting closer. I had to escape. On night 3, I decided to take a risk. At 2 a.m., I snuck out of bed. I used the metal file on a nail clipper to pick the lock. It was a simple, old spring lock. After 10 tense minutes, a soft click echoed and the door swung open. Holding my breath, I crept out into the pitch-black living room, feeling my way along the wall toward the front door, my heart hammering in my chest. Every tiny creak of the floorboards made me freeze, listening for any movement. Once sure it was clear, I moved on. Just as my hand reached for the handle, the lights flashed on. My father stood in the hallway, holding a thick wooden club, his face twisted in rage. He had been waiting for me. I tried to run back to my room, but he was too fast. He lunged forward. My mother and Lin Jiaoxia watched from the shadows, completely indifferent. He beat me until he was out of breath, panting heavily. You are never leaving this house unless you agree to repeat that year. I lay on the floor, my entire body shaking, not out of fear, but pure, unadulterated rage. 18 years of silent endurance nearly exploded in my chest, but I held it in. It was not time yet. I lacked evidence, and my backup was not ready. They dragged me back, threw me on the bed, and added a heavy padlock outside a heavy lock I could never pick from inside. My back burned with agonizing pain, but the sensation only cleared my mind. For the next 2 days, I played the perfect prisoner. I ate, slept, and bided my time. On the surface, I acted like I had given up. My parents thought they had broken my spirit, so they loosened their grip a little. But the door was still locked. I was still trapped. I used those 2 days to carefully study their routines, memorizing when everyone went to bed and when they got up. I memorized every single detail, waiting for the perfect moment. On the 4th night, they finally made their move. At 2:47 a.m., I heard the lock click softly. It wasn't a tentative rattle, but someone actually picking the lock. I kept my eyes closed, breathing steadily, pretending to be asleep, but every nerve in my body was screaming. The door creaked open. Footsteps, incredibly light, tried not to wake me. Two people, judging from their breathing. I knew one was my mother, and the other was my father. They crept over to my desk and began rifling through my things. I stayed completely still, but my heart was pounding against my ribs. I knew exactly what they wanted: my ID card and my college admission letter. Those two items were my ticket out of this hell, and the only leverage they had to keep me trapped. The rustling went on for a minute, then I heard my mother whisper, "I can't find them. Where did he hide them? Keep looking, they have to be in here. It's not like he could take them outside." They tore through my desk drawers, my bookshelf, and my backpack, even checking my clothes pockets. Then I felt someone walk over to my bed, hovering, deciding whether to search under my pillow. "Did you find it?" "Shh, don't wake him." Lin Jiaoxia barged in, her footsteps way louder than my parents'. Clearly, she did not care if I woke up. I felt her stand right by my bed, staring down at me, her gaze cold as a viper. I could literally feel her breath on my face. Then, her voice came, icy and absolutely certain. "Stop faking it. I know you're awake." But she didn't press it. Instead, she started tearing the room apart herself. Far more violently than my parents. Books were swept off the shelves, hitting the floor. Drawers were ripped out. I had hidden my ID and admission letter inside a secret pocket in my pillowcase, and the admission letter was folded tiny and sewn inside my suitcase lining. I thought they would never find them, but I seriously underestimated my sister's insanity. She ripped my pillow away and started feeling it inch by inch. Her hands moved like a guard searching for contraband, leaving no corner unchecked. When she hit that hidden seam, her hand froze. Then, she let out a thrilled shriek. "Found it." My heart stopped, but I forced myself to stay still. Next, she threw herself at my suitcase, dumping everything out before clawing at the lining. The sound of fabric tearing was absolutely deafening. Her nails scraped across the material until she finally grabbed that stiff piece of paper. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted upright and switched on the lamp. Lin Jiaoxia stood by the open suitcase, clutching an envelope in the admission letter. Her face looked like she had struck gold, pure greed and excitement. I stared at them, my voice dead cold, asking what they were doing in my room at midnight. They exchanged looks and dropped the act entirely. My dad slammed my ID onto the desk, speaking without a shred of shame. "Let's not beat around the bush. Xiao Xiao told us that as long as you are around, she gets high grades. This is just your connection as siblings. You just have to accept it. Lin Tian, listen to your mother. Repeating a year won't hurt you. You're so smart, you'll easily get in again next year. Then Xiao Xiao will go to college too, and we'll have 2 Ivy League graduates in the family. A total win," they claimed. I said no, standing up to grab my ID back, but my dad shoved me away. I stumbled and crashed into the wall, sharp pain flaring in my back as he leaned in. His voice was cold and threatening. "You think you actually have a choice? From today on, you are not going anywhere without your ID and your admission letter. You can forget about Tsinghua and Peking. You'll stay home and repeat the year. Next year, once you are done, you can go to your precious university. Nobody is holding you back." I took a deep breath, forcing down the boiling rage inside. I couldn't blow my cover yet. I needed more evidence. I looked at them and asked, "So you came here tonight just to steal my things?" My mother sneered, not even bothering to hide her actions anymore. "Steal? Everything in this house belongs to us. You are still a kid, so we are just keeping your ID safe." I looked over at Lin Jiaxiao as she pulled my admission letter out of the envelope. A smug, vengeful grin was plastered on her face. She held it up like a trophy, and then she did something I will never forget. Holding the paper tight, her eyes burned with mad hatred. She slowly ripped it in half right in front of my face. That sharp tear sounded like my entire future snapping. Still unsatisfied, she kept ripping the pieces over and over until they were nothing but paper shreds. The shreds fluttered to the floor like snowflakes. She did it so slowly, destroying the ticket to my new life in seconds. Lin Jiaxiao stared at my face, laughing like a lunatic. "Your letter is gone. Let's see you register now. You will spend the rest of your life being my stepping stone. I want you to rot in the mud with me." She was shaking, her messy hair making her look insane. "Why are you better than me? Why does everyone praise you? Why do you get to go to a top university while I stay home and get mocked? All of that should have been mine." Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness, but from pure jealousy and madness. But then her voice suddenly dropped to a whisper, as if she was talking to herself or maybe to me. "Do you know how terrified I was ever since we were kids? I knew my grades were fake, stolen from you." Her face twisted as she confessed that before every exam, she was paralyzed with fear, terrified I would refuse to take it or that I would fail. She was terrified everyone would realize she was a fraud. Sobbing, she screamed that she hated me just for being smarter. It's hilarious how she thought I never had to work for my grades. I hate myself even more. Without you, I'm absolutely nothing. That's why you can't leave. You have to stay. You must be my stepping stone forever. It's the only way I can survive. I just stared at her, this person I have called my sister for 18 years, feeling nothing but pity. But pity does not mean forgiveness. Pity is no excuse for ruining my life. My parents stood there, watching her wild episode, and not one of them tried to stop her. They actually looked proud, like she had done something heroic. Watching this play out was absurd and tragic. This was my family. Blood is thicker than water, right? I looked down at the paper shreds on the floor, my shoulders trembling. They thought I was crying, that I had finally broken. My mother scoffed, her voice dripping with condescension. All right, stop crying, it is not the end of the world. Just take the exam again next year, consider this a lesson, and learn to behave. I stayed quiet. I just knelt down, my hands trembling as I gathered the torn paper scraps. Lin Jiaxiao sneered at my defeat, her grin widening. Go on, cry. Cry more. You deserve this, it's your destiny. I looked up at her, and she froze. My eyes were completely dry. There was only freezing hatred and a fleeting smirk. That smirk terrified her, making her take a step back. She asked me what was so funny. I stood up slowly, my voice completely hoarse but completely calm. Nothing. I was just thinking that was quite a performance. If life does not work out, you could always become an actress. I stopped there, letting myself slump onto the bed, staring blankly and mumbling like I had lost my mind. Seeing me like this, Lin Jiaxiao's suspicions slowly melted away, replaced by the smug satisfaction of victory. Are you terrified now? You should have thought of that earlier, my dad snorted, shoving my ID card deep into his pocket. Go back to bed. This kid is not going anywhere from now on. The three of them walked out like they had just won a war. Before leaving, my mom locked the door from the outside. The lock clicked shut, sounding like a thunderclap in my head. I was officially a prisoner. The room went dark again. Sitting silently on my bed, I listened to their fading footsteps until the house fell dead silent. Then I stood up, walked to my bookshelf, and dug a hidden, recording spare phone out of a pile of old junk. They had searched my entire room but never checked what they thought was trash. The camera caught every single detail: Lin Jiaxiao's hysterical tearing, my parents watching coldly, even cheering, and their entire confession. The whole sick plot was captured on video. I immediately uploaded it to the cloud, making multiple backups. There was no way I was losing this. Then, I edited a quick version and posted it online with a simple caption. This is the toxic family I've been trying to escape. I hit send, then dialed the police. I am being held hostage by my family. I answered all their questions. The dispatcher said they were sending officers and told me to wait. After hanging up, I silenced my phone, hid it deep in the clutter, and climbed back into bed. My heart was hammering, but I had to look completely calm. I had no idea when the police would show up, or what might happen first. But I knew if I could just survive the night, everything would change. As the minutes dragged by, the sky outside began to pale. I kept my eyes wide open, staring straight at the ceiling, my ears straining to catch every tiny sound in the house. At 4 a.m., I heard footsteps. It was Lin Jiaxiao. Her steps were incredibly light, like she was trying not to wake anyone. But in the dead silence, they were loud and clear. She stopped right outside my bedroom door. I held my breath, freezing completely. Then, the lock clicked. She was coming back in. I closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep, my heart drumming wildly in my ears. She walked over, standing right by my bed. I could feel her eyes burning into me, full of suspicion and scrutiny. Then she started pacing around the room, her footsteps fading and nearing like a predator patrolling its territory. I had no idea what she was searching for, but a cold dread began to settle in my chest. Her footsteps stopped right in front of my bookshelf. My stomach wrenched. The rustling started as she dug through that pile of clutter. Under the blanket, my fingers clenched into tight fists. My mind raced, trying to figure out what to do. If she found the phone, then the rustling stopped. I froze solid. I could hear my heart pounding. "What is this?" she asked. I knew I was busted. I snapped my eyes open and bolted upright, only to see her holding my spare phone. The screen was still glowing, showing that it was recording, that little red dot blinking. Her face twisted from confusion to shock, then to pure rage. "Lin Tian, you are recording," she shrieked, lunging at me like a rabid animal. I did not even have time to dodge before she was on me, her nails ripping across my cheek, leaving a burning trail of pain. I grabbed her wrists and we scrambled, wrestling on the bed. She might be a girl, but she fought like a maniac with unbelievable strength. We crashed into the nightstand, sending the lamp shattering onto the floor. The racket was deafening. It woke my parents up instantly. My dad burst into the room, saw us, and shoved me back without asking questions. "How dare you lay a hand on your sister? I gasped for air, clutching my throbbing head, and protested. I didn't touch her, she attacked me first. Meanwhile, Lin Jiaxiao scrambled off the floor, still clutching the phone tightly in her fist. She ducked behind my dad, acting as if she had finally found her ultimate savior. Dad, he was secretly recording us. He has a video of everything we did. My dad's face went completely pale. He snatched the phone away and stared at the screen, his expression twisting with rage as veins popped on his forehead. Lin Tian, you really are a piece of work. He snarled, slamming my phone onto the floor. The screen shattered instantly, and he stomped on it repeatedly, grinding it into a useless pile of scrap metal. I watched him destroy it, but I did not panic, not even a little. The video was already backed up to the cloud. That phone was just a hollow shell, but I played my part, letting a look of sheer despair wash over my face as if my last lifeline had been snapped. My mom rushed in next, her face turning pale when she saw the mess. Listen to me, Lin Tian, she spat. You are going to stay right here, and you are not going anywhere. If you dare post anything online, you will regret it. He stormed out cursing, telling my mom to watch me like a hawk. Sweetheart, God, you have disappointed me so much, my mom said. We did all this for the sake of this family. Why can't you just understand? With that, she left too, and I heard the lock click on my door once again. Only this time, they dragged something heavy to block the door. I heard a chair scraping against the floor outside. Locked in my ruined room, I slumped against the wall, touching my. They had no idea the police were already on their way. They genuinely believed that smashing a single phone solved all their problems, completely oblivious that the real storm was about to hit. Time kept ticking by, the sky growing lighter. Around 6 in the morning, my dad's phone started ringing off the hook, followed by his panicked voice shouting, "What video? Who posted this?" Then came my mom's hysterical screams and Lin Jiaoxiao's desperate crying. The entire house descended into absolute chaos. I smiled to myself. The video had officially gone viral. I had no idea how much time went by, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Suddenly, a heavy, urgent banging rattled the front door, accompanied by loud voices shouting outside. "Open the door, police, we have received a report about someone being held here." "Who called them?" "Husband, what do we do?" My mom panicked. "Do not panic. Hide the boy. Tell them he is not home." Sitting in my locked room, I listened to them scramble. "Hide me? Where?" Outside, the officer yelled again, "Open this door immediately, or we will be forced to break it down." My dad finally cracked. I heard the front door click open, followed by a flurry of heated voices. I could not make out the exact words, but I could tell my dad was desperately lying, trying to smooth things over. A few minutes later, the barricade blocking my door was finally cleared. The door swung open to reveal 2 uniformed police officers. The moment they saw me, their faces fell. A younger officer stepped inside and asked, "Are you Lin Tian, the one who posted the video?" I nodded. He stared at the scratches on my face and my swollen lip, then scanned the wrecked room. His expression turned deadly serious. "You are hurt. Who did this to you?" "My father did," I replied. "Officer, this is a private family matter," my dad chimed in. "What is wrong with disciplining my own son?" The older officer whipped around and glared at him. "A family matter? Unlawful detention and stripping someone of their freedom is a family matter to you?" We received a frantic report saying someone was locked inside by their own family, and we also received a horrific video. See for yourself if you still call this a family matter. The screen showed my parents ransacking my room, and Lin Jiaoxiao shredding my college admission letter like a lunatic. My dad's face drained of color, and my mother nearly collapsed, her legs turning to jelly. Lin Jiaoxiao cowered in a corner, her hair a wild mess and her eyes entirely hollow, looking like a crushed insect. "We need you to come down to the station to give a statement," the officer told me. I nodded, standing up and stepping over the shattered glass as I walked out. As I passed my dad, he reached out to grab me, but an officer shoved his hand away. "You are under suspicion for unlawful confinement and assault. Back off." My dad looked like he had just swallowed a fly, furious, terrified, and utterly powerless. I did not even look at him. I walked straight out the door. Behind me, my mother's pathetic wails echoed down the hallway. "Tian, how can you do this to us? We are your parents. How are we supposed to show our faces in public again?" I paused for a second. "You stopped treating me like a human being a long time ago. Now it is your turn to taste your own medicine. Lin Tian, you will regret this." Lin Jiaoxiao shrieked behind me. "I will never forgive you." I stared at her twisted, furious face and replied calmly, "Remember this. From today on, we are dead to each other." I turned, climbed into the police cruiser, and never looked back. By the time my statement was finished, it was already noon. Thanks to the video and my testimony, my father was officially charged with assault and unlawful confinement. As for Lin Jiaoxiao, even though the university sent the admission letter, it was legally my personal property, so she would face charges for destroying it too. But what about my admission letter? I asked. Don't worry, you can get a replacement, the officer reassured me. He advised me to contact the university, and they would provide supporting documents. I nodded, stepping out. The noon sun was blinding as I stood on the station steps, squinting up at the sky. It felt like I had been trapped in a long, suffocating nightmare, but now, I was finally awake.